Afternoon, everybody. Movie review time. 1917. Yes, everyone's talking about it, including me. What's it like? Is it any good? Should you spend your money? Stick around and you'll find out. Now, first things first, new background, guys. Yes, new background. Daughter's working from home today and she's in the study at the dining table, so I can't go in there. Living room's a bit of a mess, so I thought I'd come upstairs to the bedroom. So there you are, looking very nice. Now, 1917, directed by Sam Mendes. There are, what are there? There are probably three very good films, programmes, no, make it four very good films, programmes about the First World War. First of those, and these aren't in any particular order, first of those is Gallipoli. Now, you remember Gallipoli? It was when Mel Gibson, remember him? Before he was famous, or probably his first major starring role, and it was about, surprise, surprise, Gallipoli. Second would be They Shall Not Grow Old, an absolutely superb documentary, partly in colour, by Peter Jackson, who made the Lord of the Rings films. And there's a link to my review of it just up here. It's not up there, guys, but if you look through my list of videos, you'll find it. The third one is Blackadder, the final episode. And if you haven't seen the final episode of Blackadder, it is something worth seeing. And the fourth one is Paths of Glory, which is Stanley Kubrick's film about the First World War, starring Kirk Douglas. And a wonderful piece of art that film is. So now we have 1917. And do we add that to the list? Well, maybe and maybe not. What's it about? Well, Gallipoli, if you remember Gallipoli, was about, I think, and I'm digging into the memory banks here, a couple of brothers or a couple of close friends, quite young, who were runners. Yes, they were either long distance runners or they were marathon runners or they were short distance runners in Australia, can't remember. And anyway, they went to Gallipoli and they had to run to deliver messages. Anyway, running was a theme of that film. And in some respects, 1917 is not dissimilar. It's about two people, they're not brothers, they're friends. Don't think they're close friends. I quite get that from the film. Anyway, they're friends, they're young, they're in the army. It's, believe it or not, 1917. They're in the trenches and they get called by their commanding officer to deliver a message to a colonel who is at a front line, who is about to launch an attack, and the general doesn't want the attack to take place. So they have to make their way through difficulties, problems. It's a bit like a quest, a bit like Lord of the Rings, and they have to deliver the message. Do they succeed or do they fail? Well, that's what the film is about. And I suppose one of the criticisms is that is all that the film is about. There is no subplot. Does there need to be a subplot? Maybe not. It doesn't really cover any other ground except the ground that they cover in delivering this message. You've probably read about the technology or the technical way in which they've made this film. It is portrayed or is projected as being done in a single take. Now, it's not done in a single take, and although you can see the joins, it's hard to see the joins. Now, I've got to say, this single take business did not get in the way of the film. You don't look for it, it doesn't spoil it. Does it add something to it? Yes, in a way, because you see a lot of the things through the eyes of the two protagonists. The camera follows them, or the cameraman walks backwards, or he must be running backwards actually, because they're walking towards the camera through the trenches at quite a rate. So you see what's going on around them. And the trenches and this part of the First World War is, I've got to say, it's superbly realised. The production manager, the production designer has done a great job. I believe it was filmed largely on Salisbury Plain, and they built a whole array of trenches. And the design of the trenches and the soldiers in the trenches and the earth in the trenches, it looks very, very genuine. Now, I wasn't in the First World War. That may come as a bit of a surprise to you, especially to those people who could describe me as a curmudgeonly old fool after my review of Jojo Rabbit, also available here. Not here, by the way, but you can find it amongst my videos. Oh, pardon me. Yeah, I wasn't in the First World War, but from what you've seen of documentaries or old film about the First World War, it looks pretty genuine. Now, I would say this film has drawn a bit from Gallipoli in terms of the messengers. It's drawn a bit from the Saving Private Ryan film, Steven Spielberg's film about the D-Day landings, because it's not about brothers so much, but one of the protagonists has a brother, and for various reasons that brother needs to be found at the front line. It also has echoes of They Shall Not Grow Old, and Sam Mendes has certainly looked, I would say, at They Shall Not Grow Old. Some of the scenes of the no man's land and some of the ways in which the dead bodies are depicted in the film, I think owes quite a lot to They Shall Not Grow Old. Now, what did I like about it? Well, it's very well made. It's very well made. It's very well designed. The production design is good. The story is not powerful, but it draws you along. You want to know what happens at the end. You want to know whether they succeed in their quest. It's a Hollywood film, and now am I giving up too much away by saying that tells you whether the quest succeeds or not? Maybe, maybe not. My issue with the film, and this takes me back a bit to Blackadder, is I did not feel emotionally involved or moved in any way by this film. Now, if you've seen the last episode of Blackadder, or in particular if you've seen the last few moments of Blackadder, it kicks you in the gut with the emotional resonance. You are moved, and I defy anybody, unless you are the most hard-hearted person on earth, I defy anyone to watch that final few moments of Blackadder and not have a tear in their eye. Now, I did not have a tear in my eye about this film. It's a little hard to say why. I suppose one of the reasons is the story is not particularly interesting, and it's fairly obvious. The dialogue is not particularly interesting or particularly well written. Now, you could say these are ordinary soldiers living not an ordinary event, but they're doing what ordinary young working class soldiers, if you like. So why do you expect poetry, Julian? Why do you expect transcendental language? Well, I'm not, and I'm not being snobbish about it. All I'm saying is the dialogue is not particularly interesting. It doesn't particularly engage you. Something happens to one of the protagonists. I'm not going to give away what it is, but you're sort of bothered by it. It happens a little bit too early for you to really get involved or engaged with the character, so it doesn't really move you that much. And the result is, to a certain extent, it's in doubt, but really when you think about it, it's not in any doubt at all. So the ending of the film doesn't come as a big surprise, and therefore there is no great shocking moment. There is a sequence in the film, about middle of the film, where he meets a youngish French lady who has a child, and it creates the kind of diversion that you see in these films. There's also a scene, or a few scenes, that take place in a destroyed village at night time with lots of flashing strobe lights that I would have to say reminds me of a particularly unpleasant acid trip that I took at university. But it's not. I don't want to make that scene sound awful. To me, it was just a little bit cliched, and I'd seen it, nay, I'd lived it before. So some of my comments might seem as if I'm being a little half-hearted about the film, a little churlish about the film, and I don't really want it to come across in that way. I went to see it with my son Joel, as we often do. He really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the film. I think it's a good film. I think it's well worth watching. I think 95% of people will love this film. I enjoyed the film. I think it's a good film. I don't think it's a great film. It's by no means a perfect film. It's a powerful film with a powerful story that is well told. But it does have some weaknesses. It does have some issues that prevent it from reaching those heights of the certainly three programs, and Gallipoli, from what I remember of it, guys, and it's a long time since I saw that film, but 1917 has a long way to go before it reaches those heights. Now, it's not as bad, and that is not a big criticism, it's not as bad as Dunkirk, which I thought was a pretty terrible film. And when the best thing about a film is Harry Styles, well, that's really going something. So, 1917, I think I've given you some idea of what it's like. Is it any good? Yes, it is. Should you go and see it? Yes, it is. Go and see it. Make up your own mind. Now, I've had various comments about my reviews. Some of people have been quite dismissive, quite insulting about these reviews. But guys, it's my opinion. I don't get paid for these reviews. I do it because I quite enjoy doing it. And I don't say some of these things just to wind people up or just to annoy people. And I don't invent reasons not to like a film. If I say I don't like a film for a particular reason, that is a genuine reason. You may disagree with it, please disagree with it. I'm not saying I didn't like 1917. I did. I enjoyed it a lot. And I would say, go and see it. Make up your own mind. I think you'll probably love it. See you next time.